y'all, welcome to the video. It's just math, y'all. Today we're going to look at radians, angles in radians, and we're going to do some of the things we did the other day, which is draw them in standard form, and then we're going to find a coterminal angle. So we're going to draw the angle in standard form. Now when dealing with radians, we need to keep our perspective of our angles in front of us, just like we did with degrees. If you just recall that this is pi, this is pi over 2, this is 2 pi, okay, and then this is 3 pi over 2, and sometimes we need to think in terms of this is 1.5 pi, so if you need to think in terms of that. And don't forget your fractions. Remember, this is 4/4 pi, or if we're going to do 3/3, and so on, and think about that. Okay, so our first one is 7 pi over 4, or that's 7/4 pi, and it just depends on how you see it. I'm going to draw this one. I'm going to go 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. That's 4/4 pi. 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. So there I am. It's 7/4 pi. There's my angle for that one. And I literally went around and I kind of just watched count my little fourths, and I made it all the way around. All right. Now, 16 pi over 3, again, I'm going to count all the way around. That's 16/3. Okay. Let's do a little faster counting, because I got to go all the way to 16/3. So I'm going to do a little faster counting. So I've got 3/3, 6/3, 3, 6, 9/3. I'm counting by 3. 3/3, 6/3, 9/3, 12/3. All right, and then 15/3. Okay, 15/3. And so 16/3 will be a third more. So a third more would be right there. This would be 16/3 pi right there. That's that angle. Okay. Again, you could also do 16/3. That's using your improper fraction. 3 goes into 16 5 total times. And if we did 5 1/3, let's watch this. 5 1/3 pi. That's 5 pi's and then 1/3 pi. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1/3. 1/3 of the way back to the other one. Here we go. 1/3 of the way. So that would be 16/3 pi. It's the same location, just a different way of counting it. All right. Now, remember negatives. Negative angles go the other direction. So this one right here, we have negative 5/4, so we're going to be going in that direction, and I've got to go negative 5/4. I did 7/4 a minute ago, and I know my 4, so that's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and one more fourth to make 5/4. So that would be negative 5 pi over 4. All right. So doing this a little bit, it takes some practice. It works with your fractions. You really have to work with your fractions and your mixed numbers. Let's do coterminals. Again, more fractions. Coterminals. Now, when we did coterminals before, we add or subtracted a whole circle. In degrees, that's add or subtract 360. In radians, it's add or subtract 2 pi. Okay, now we've got to be able to add 2 pi or 2 to our fraction, or subtract 2 to our fraction. It also helps to know if our given angle is bigger or smaller than 2 pi. So let's just refresh our memory on this one. If I was going to do degrees and I wanted to do a coterminal angle, and I wanted my coterminal angle to be less than 360, and my coterminal angle was 400 degrees, would I add or subtract a whole circle? Well, obviously, I know that's more than 360, so obviously I would subtract 360. And my coterminal would be 40 degrees. But if I'm at, say, 160 degrees and I want a coterminal angle, then I'm going to add a whole circle. And then that would put me at 520 degrees. So knowing where I am when I start will determine whether I add a whole circle or subtract a whole circle. With fractions, it's harder sometimes because people don't know how to do their fractions in their head. They don't know how to estimate with their fractions. So do a little estimating and decide if this is bigger or smaller than 2 pi. 19.6, 6 goes into 19 3 whole times. This is bigger than 2 pi. This is 3 and a little bit more. So this is definitely bigger than 2 pi. So to find a coterminal angle, I'm going to subtract a whole circle, and I'm going to subtract 2 pi. Now I'm going to do this in terms of fractions. Now this is kind of one of those things that people just struggle with. I'm going to learn how to subtract fractions. I got to get a common denominator. That's one way to do it. There are other ways to do it. We will talk about some other ways to add subtract fraction, but you basically got to subtract 9/16 minus 2, and then you stick pi on the end. That's all you have to do. So if I were to do a common denominator, which is really easy, it would be 6, so that would be 12/6. So 19/6 minus 12/6 is going to be 7/6. And so my answer would be 7/6 pi. Okay, the second one is a negative one, so I'm definitely going to add a whole circle to this one. I'm going to add 2 pi to this one. This time I'm adding negative 1/12 plus 2 over 1. Again, my common denominator is going to be 12. So negative 1 plus 24 is going to be 23/12, and don't forget the pi on the end. That's how you find coterminal angles. Add or subtract a whole circle. Learning how to work with radians takes time. Give yourself time and be patient with it. It's just math, y'all. You can do it.